Kusai.
I'm Jukebox Hero.
I'm Skufflewick, and I'm the pretty one. Oh, there's the Cubone. She was adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about that dog?
No, not the dog. Oh, man. So, over the weekend, we were at, I was at the Calgary Comic Expo, and all the cosplays are fucking amazing there. Like, just awesome. There was a Cubone that I met when I was going up like 200 or 300 cosplayers. I think there was almost 4 or 5 this year. But we all go up onto the stairs of the Saddle Dome, and we take giant group shots together. It's at the very end of at the expo, Sunday, usually at 5 or 6. And I met a Cubone there, or she was cosplaying a Cubone, and I was like, oh man, that's awesome. And then later tried to find photos of it to show my buddies. And I ended up coming across this photo of a corgi with a Cubone mask, and oh my god, is it the cutest thing ever?
It's adorable and morbid.
A little bit, yeah. It's the best of all things.
You know
the
really deal
cool.
with the skull, right?
Oh yeah.
It's its dead mother.
Which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because the birth rates on Cubones is 50-50. So you're you would half the generation every generation, or half the populace every generation.
Well, maybe they're doomed to go extinct.
Well, it also wouldn't really stay, because what happens if they give if it's a boy, you don't keep that fucking species going. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they could have done it a little better, but it's still an interesting explanation for the Pokemon.
I don't know. I'm going to stick to their going extinct.
Yeah. I'm also going to point out it's better than some of the explanations for the other Pokemon.
I'm still going to say it's Kangaskhan.
That's pretty much the fan accepted.
That is what the fans have accepted, though it's not in canon yet. So, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, Cubone is in the first generation of Pokemon: red, blue, yellow. Cubone is Japanese, right? Cubone is a small Pokemon who looks a lot like a tiny Kangaskhan, except it wears a skull. And it's always crying, and it's got this little bone club, which is so cute. Anyways, the story behind Cubones is the skull is actually the skull of its dead mother. So what we're saying is, if Cubones always get their mother's skull, and they have a birth rate of 50-50 male, 50-50 female, each generation the populace would half and eventually dwindle off. But there's another fan theory where Cubones are in fact Kangaskhan's, another Pokemon. It kind of looks like a kangaroo, but like badass. Are in fact Kangaskhan's. And then when the skull is placed onto the Cubones, or the Kangaskhan to become a Cubone's head, at that time it would be a special item evolution, similar to Onyx with a steel jacket? Steel jacket or steel coat?
Steel coat.
Coat, I think.
Oh, okay. Or like Pikachu with the Thunderstone.
That being said, I think I might just have something to mention. Is it wasn't canon, but it actually might be canon since Pokemon Sun and Moon.
What's that?
That Cubone is a baby Kangaskhan.
I see no evidence at all in Sun and Moon for that.
I'm reading one of the descriptions from the game, and it pretty much
read it out loud.
Cubone and Marowak are it's like here on the Pokemon site. It says Cubone and Marowak are the only Pokemon that can learn Bone Club, Boomerang. This is a popular and then goes on and saying that it's like baby Kangaskhan, and there's a bunch of news articles.
Now hang on, exactly what words is it saying? It is a baby Kangaskhan.
I'll link it. It's just I'm looking.
Don't fuck around with this.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at screenshots from the game, so like.
Send us the link.
I will send it later. Let's just move on. We're supposed to be talking
about... Send it now, damn it. We're already in this. No, we're already in this. Let's fucking do this.
Let's move on.
We're not at 10 minutes yet. We're at 4 minutes in this segment. We have another few minutes.
Can we just move on? This isn't a segment. This is you going off on let's talk about Pokemon.
What's wrong with Pokemon?
Yeah,
It's fine.
you've got two people wanting this link, and you're the one sitting there. No,
so
stick to the plan.
Coming from Skufflewick, who was like 30 seconds ago. Let's see how long we can actually stick to this to the format.
Oh,
It's the first person to go off format.
Was I wrong?
Does he know the
Only
format?
because I told him and I emailed him. He's had this explained to me in detail like twice now. He has no excuse.
I love how you're
So
like a
let's start.
scapegoat, because I'm the one who's like, link it now.
Like,
I'll link
send
it
the
later.
fucking link. Yeah.
I've moved on and moved past it to my actual articles for what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, so
Hit
as
me.
of right now, there is no evidence that a Cubone comes from
We'll come back to it.
Kangaskhan,
Yeah.
at this moment,
Yes,
it is strictly fan theory and some
Yes.
far off bullshit that Kusai is linking through like
and
6
I'm not-
logic leaps.
I'm also going to point out I said it might be canon. I
Kusai,
didn't
we're
say it
moving on.
was.
You said
Kusai,
it
we're
was.
We're moving on.
Move on with the thing.
Yeah, I said it might.
No, you were like, oh, it's in the book, it's in the fucking thing, like.
It looks like
And then
it is,
you
but I
wouldn't
said I
send
also want to
it
confirm
because
it.
like we don't know, and like
I also said it might, so let's move on.
suck a dick.
Oh god, let's just move on.
Go back. Let's move
Suck a
on.
dick.
Okay, so moving on to our actual segment here that we're trying to do. What games have you guys played this week? Because I've actually played a game other than Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links and this week, so...
I've played all
What
the
have you guys-
fucking pinball. All of it.
Yes, you were at... Well, this is a good point to talk about YEG Pin.
Yeah, so... Well, no, actually...
What is YEG pin?
Well, hold on for
Oh
2
look,
seconds.
we're screwing the format again.
No,
Good
that's
job,
format.
Kusai.
Scufflewick, are you dense? Because
Bend
like, he's talking
over
about
That counts
games.
as
really
news,
deeply
not as what we
and shove
play.
your own dick in your mouth. And let me finish.
Wait, does that mean I get to finish?
In your own mouth, yes.
Excellent.
As long as you're quiet.
Oh.
Okay, so the Pinball Arcade is an actual video game. I did play all the pinball, but I also played all the virtual pinball. What the Pinball Arcade is pretty much a greatest hits of pinball machines, emulated pretty much. Because it's hard to have something that's purely mechanical and physical in a digital form. So, Pinball Arcade kind of has like the best physics engine of any pinball games I've played online. And what you kind of get to do is pick and choose which tables you want. So every single table is DLC. There's only like one free table. And if you really like pinball, you can get the whole season pass, which is like 20 tables for $50 or whatever. It got really quiet.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So, like, I've played this, but just for the viewers, how accurate is the game to an actual pinball machine?
Well, the physics engine's pretty good, but you can never get that perfect, pretty much.
Yeah.
But the machines themselves were meticulously, like, scrutinized. Like, every detail of the machines are in these virtual ones, pretty much. Like, I know for some of them, they actually got, like, the original CAD drawings from, Williams?
And how is
For
the
Williams
physics
machines?
play?
Well, he just said, but
Yeah, it's about the best there is right now. Pinball FX is up there, but I feel like Pinball Arcade's a bit better.
Okay, but that doesn't say how good it is.
You
Like,
probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference unless you actually played pinball.
oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
and I'd have to agree with it from actually having played it myself too. It's pretty spot on as far as I'm concerned for a video game.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than what I was used to, which was, the space pinball that used to be on Microsoft.
Rock and roll pinball on like MS-DOS.
Yeah. That was a good one. So is there anything you would want to see improved on that game? Like, is there anything that was actually a con or a detractor from it that they could actually improve on?
So I'm actually playing it on the Wii U. And it's stuck at version 1.0 because I'm pretty sure they uploaded it on there. The Wii U failed. They didn't sell that many, and they decided to never touch it again. So, like, on PC, they're currently on, like, season 6 or 7 on the Wii U. They only released up to season 4. So, I mean, I'd like to see them release more tables on that, but I mean, that's just a platform problem.
Yeah. If anything, they might release it onto the Nintendo Switch now that it's out and keep it up to date.
Maybe. It's already on the PS4 and the Xbox One. The only reason I don't buy the others on PC is because I already have 4 seasons on the Wii U. I don't want to have to switch between 2 systems to play these games.
Yeah, I haven't not played it on PS4, and I played it on your Wii U. I actually think that the Wii U would work better.
Someone's vibrating.
Yeah, you should check that.
Than like say other consoles, because it kind of almost feels like you're holding on to a very small.
Yeah, I kind of noticed
machine
that.
Versus a very small controller. You know what I mean? Like it'd be
the
weird.
buttons, the shoulder buttons on the Wii U pad are very different compared to like the PS4 and the Xbox One, where the PS4 and Xbox One, they kind of stick out a lot more and you gotta press them a lot farther. The Wii U is like a short button press, which is more similar to a pinball machine, and your arms are spaced a little bit apart. It's not nearly as much as like an actual pinball machine, but it's enough to feel a little more natural.
The Wii U buttons, though, are you talking the triggers?
Shoulder buttons.
Oh, it is.
Or triggers.
Shoulder buttons. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure the Wii U triggers, aren't they 3-step digital?
Don't know.
I didn't think they were native analog.
Oh, no, they're not.
Okay.
They're not, but
pinball
they're
machines aren't analog
them.
either. Most pinball machines
I know.
run off leaf switches.
No, but I'm saying like that's why they're a shorter pull, because they're not legit. And I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure
Wii U
I saw somewhere
gamepad,
they're not.
For the Wii U gamepad, it's not. I think with the Pro controller they might be, but the fact that they're not analog makes it a shorter distance and it feels a bit better as a comparison to real pinball.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what an analog versus a digital, in this case button, is on controllers. If you look at the Xbox 360 or Xbox One, and I think PlayStation generations would have the same, but the shoulder buttons and the trigger buttons, so your RB and your RT, the trigger is a gradual pull, and at each point of the pull it has a certain intensity where it can measure, versus the shoulder buttons above are just on or off. The on or off, like either you're pressing it or you're not, is a digital button, whereas with the trigger, how far back you're pulling it, like a gas pedal if you're playing Need for Speed, how far back you're pulling it has individual values, and that is an analog button.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add before we move on, Jukebox?
Well, actually, I kind of wanted to ask you guys stuff, but I'll ask it later.
Okay.
So tell me what you've been playing.
Okay. I'll tell you what I've been playing. Have you guys ever heard of a game called FTL by Subset Games?
Heard of it? Haven't seen it.
Faster Than Light.
Yeah. It's about you control a ship. It's a above view kind of 2D game where you control a ship that actually can go faster than light. And you control it between jumps, and you fight ships. You get to build onto the ship by putting equipment on it or getting crew members, and you allot points and everything, and you're trying to outrun a supernova.
So it's Mass Effect that you get to add to the ship.
I feel like I saw them play this on Steam Train.
Yeah, and if you guys are wondering how old it is back from September 2012.
Old enough.
It is. Yes. So it's a good 5 years.
Was the story that you were escaping Earth because it was 2012? Our sun became a fucking supernova and destroyed our galaxy or whatever.
That's the weird thing. I've played hours of this thing and I have not come across like any discernible actual storyline.
Oh. I mean, that's
You
kind
know,
of lame, but
Other than you got some background information, like that they're part of a galactic federation, which is on the verge of collapse, and they're going up against evil people. But they basically give you that little
Good
bit. They
enough.
don't tell you why they don't try to tell you why anything's happening. Just that
that's NES
Yeah.
arcade story. One line, just this is what's happening. Go.
which is the reason why I like it. It feels like an old retro game, and it's fun. There's no point. I can stop and pause at any time and come back to it, and it's just fun.
I kind of like that versus newer games like The Witcher. And I'm only using The Witcher as an example because I'm guilty of this right now, but like where you'll play it for a while and then you'll get distracted. Like I think 80 hours in on chapter 4 with so far 100% completion. When I go back to that, and I've gone back 15 hours just because I fucked up one quest. Yeah, so just an example of how long this fucking game's going to take. I haven't played that game in a year. I have no idea what I was doing at that point.
Sucks
Whereas
to be
with
you.
those NES games, you can jump in, jump out at any time, and
and
all you need to know is boom.
And that's the beauty of them, right?
With the exception of like the 11 games that have save cartridges.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fuck Final Fantasy.
Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what the weirdest
I-
fucking game I own that has a save in it on the NES is?
What?
It's some race car driver's turbo racing game. I don't know how the fuck that got a goddamn save cart. Because everything else is really big adventures and like Nintendo classics.
Turbotastic.
Oh god.
Okay, so it's funny that you mentioned the age, because as soon as you mentioned the age, I'm like, oh wow, he's playing a classic game, like 2012. Which made me think, like, what is technically qualified as a classic game?
Yeah.
Classic or retro?
Classic specifically.
Specifically classic. That was the
Okay.
word that jumped in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so classic
I
I
agree with
feel
that. Like,
is a
what is
lot
it?
closer to if it kind of stands the test of time or it has some sort of like significance even to the time when it came out. It could be considered a classic.
The definition of classic is judged over a period of time to be the highest quality and outstanding of its kind.
Yeah.
But like,
there's
that
no
could-
prerequisite for what time period that is.
yeah. So I mean, like, technically we could say like, oh god, it just popped into my head that Fast and the Furious is a classic. No. But like, the original BioShock is absolutely considered a classic.
Isn't that 11 years old now?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
it's beyond the gray area. It's
Yeah.
been remastered. So we have BioShock Remaster and we have BioShock Classic. If we go down to, say, Dragon Age Origins, again, I would consider that a classic game because it's a great game that stood the test of time. But this is where we start getting into, like, what is considered a classic? Because Grand Theft
Why?
Auto 4, absolutely a great game, but would we consider that a classic?
Probably.
Yeah, and that's the big thing too. Like, it's even coming out. I'm starting to have like issues with music too on that line. It's like recently it's been official that for a while now that Red Hot Chili Peppers is considered classic rock. Hell, the band me and
They
Woodhouse
started
went to
in
see
the mid
recently.
80s.
Oh, I know,
Chili
but still, like
Peppers.
even the band that me and Woodhouse went to see recently would probably be considered classic, not rock, but maybe metal.
Who
And
dat?
they're only 20 years old. Hammerfall.
See, our classic
likes
rock
going to see
radio
them.
station, like our local classic rock radio station, and I hate this, but they've played Nickelback from 2002. So that's 15 years.
Yeah.
Although, at that point, did you hate those Nickelback songs?
No.
Or has your hate for Nickelback grown over time?
Not really.
Because I don't mind that.
No, it's just 2002. So they've kind of held a 15-year difference, because I remember when they started playing like Metallica, Enter Sandman, and then things slowly progressed and they started playing like Nirvana, and then they were playing more Guns N' Roses and stuff. So they kind of hold like a 15-year difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, when is it that 15-year mark? Is there anything like, I wish there was an actual discernible time where something actually like a definitive time where, because like we can look at this and consider it maybe being classic after this much time to make things so much easier. Because just for me, for certain things like that, I'm sitting there like, I'm not that old, and things that for my youth are starting to be considered classic.
Okay,
You know,
well, let's look at this.
I kind of wonder if something came out very recently, like 2012, 5 years, you know, I kind of feel like most people probably won't consider that classic in the traditional sense, but is there a point where we can kind of foresee that this thing isn't going to like lose its amazing reviews and stuff, and we may as well start calling it a classic now?
Yeah.
I think
I don't know.
judging the longevity of something is a very dangerous practice. Just because you never know. And I almost think what makes something a classic is the fact that like it wasn't expected to be this epic proportion. I mean, like, obviously Zelda games are like, yeah, it's fucking great. We all know it's going to be amazing, but we're not
that's my
expecting
point.
in 20 years for it to be still considered a classic.
With Zelda, I am. Because all the original Zeldas are considered classics, and it's been well over 20 years now.
Yes, but at the time they were made, did they come out and say, this is going to be a classic?
No. Well, actually, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like
they
the
didn't
same
use
thing
the
with
word
movies when they get
classic, but they put it
blockbuster.
out in like, this is fucking new, this is fucking grand, people are gonna fucking love it. They didn't say classic, but they knew it was gonna be a big deal.
So they said this is going to stand the test of time?
No. They said it was gonna be fucking great.
Yeah, it's,
and I mean,
I took
that's fine. I'm talking, is it going to be a classic as far as in the future, like down the road?
Well,
Can I interject on something on that?
yeah.
The way I took it when games like Zelda came out and they were like, yeah, this is gonna be epic. I took it as the same thing when movies used to come and say, this is a blockbuster. It's gonna be, you know, and it's gonna be an instant classic.
Okay, I was talking about like the original Zeldas though, back when there literally wasn't expansive adventure games.
But that's what I mean. Like, they kind of were saying it in that same kind of tone that this is, you know,
but
as that.
For Skufflewick, I feel like you're kind of playing off of stand the test of time, as in, will people play it 20 years from now?
As opposed to the nostalgia side?
Yeah, because I don't expect anyone to play the same games they play now 20 years from now. Unless they're a collector, I never expect that. Ever. That doesn't mean they aren't classics, though. Like, if you were to go back and play these games, you would go back to these particular games, kind of deal. Like, if you brought out your NES and you wanted to play something, sure shit, you'd probably want to play something like Super Mario Bros. The classic first Mario game, you know?
Okay, so here's a question too then, because we did mention remakes or remasteries. You mentioned Super Mario Bros., which has been remade on every Nintendo generation, with like the 2D platforming style. Let's go back to the Wii or the Wii U, where the new Super Mario Bros., like that was one of the launch titles, wasn't it? Is that considered a classic game or classic play style?
I say classic play style. That's like Jaws 4, you know? It's like we just keep on remaking it, hoping it's still going to be awesome. And it might still be, but at one point, when do we stop?
I'd say both, because when they brought out the new Super Mario Bros., it was a bit of a revitalization because they had been making so many 3D ones, and they kind of realized that the 3D ones don't sell as well as the 2D ones, regardless of how well praised the 3D ones are. Like, the new
Just
Super Mario Bros. Sold so
kids.
much more than, like, Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, because they're simpler for kids to play.
Pretty much.
No. Now, Skufflewick, can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Can I? What have you played this week?
Well, I wasn't done with the classics. I actually have a list ready to go for classics. Okay, so before I answer that, Tell me at what point you start to consider these classic. Or whether or not you consider the games individually classic. Lego Star Wars, the video game.
I've never played it.
It's good. I don't know if I consider it
No. I
classic.
fucking love these games. I mean timeline-wise. Don't you
Timeline-wise, I think
dare
it's too
say
soon.
they're not amazing.
They're not.
I
It's
don't
not
know
that they're
when
not
that
amazing.
one came out.
Yeah.
2005.
Probably.
Yeah. For people personally, awesome game. I don't know if I consider it a classic, but yeah, the game, that's the subjectivity of that as well, isn't it?
Okay,
Well,
I'm
I
talking
consider the
timeline.
Lego
Just
games
remember how far
classic. I
back
just
they are.
don't know what ones there are because I haven't actually played them.
Yeah, Lego is what one of the first Lego.
I think Lego
games
was the
that came out?
first.
Yeah, but then that was one of their first themed ones, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, because they had like Lego racers and stuff before.
Yeah.
So it's the first big one, I would say. Or
Yeah,
first
probably.
themed. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, I would still consider a classic. Lego
It's
Star
still beyond
Wars.
me. Are you just going to go
3.
through Lego games?
Yeah, it's just because I have the list up. The Clone Wars in 2011, is that considered a classic?
How good was it?
I mean timeline.
Timeline-wise, I think that might be timeline.
Oh,
I think that might be too
2011,
soon.
yeah,
Like, that's-
probably.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like what, 6 years ago?
Yes.
I'd still consider it a classic.
Okay, The Force Awakens in 2016.
2016, probably not.
So
Depends
about,
what
like, last
context
year?
I'm speaking in.
Okay, Lego Marvel Superheroes, I think was 2014.
Yeah,
It was-
probably.
Yeah.
There's
So you
there's
guys are sitting at about 3 years.
yeah. See, there's another aspect of it, like especially right now, is between console generations. So it's a lot easier to call something on a past generation a classic because there's kind of that split. Because if something comes out on the 360, even if it came out in 2011, it's probably a bit better, but it still feels the same as a 360 game did back in 2006. You can't really change the hardware to make it that much more advanced. But if you wait that much more advanced, Xbox One to come out, and there's that distinctive difference between the two, the Xbox One game will feel new, and the Xbox 360 game will feel old, even if it's not as old as the earliest 360 games.
Question then, what about something like The Last of Us, which is cross-generational? It wasn't a remaster, but it was also released on between PS3 and PS4.
I'd probably call it a classic.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
that
just curious,
was
'cause,
a
like,
very significant game.
Yeah. That, and it came out in 2013.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm projecting that in the future we'll still look back and be like, that was a great fucking game.
Oh yeah, I know people who played that game without cutting through the scenes, like skipping them.
Yeah.
4 times in a row. They didn't cut. Like, you think the third or fourth time through they'd be just skipping the cut scenes, but they weren't. They were playing that game like 4 times through.
I still haven't played it.
It's a hard fucking game.
So we should move on.
Yeah. So
The question
news.
was,
Any-
what have I been playing?
Well, for fuck's
that
sakes,
would-
answer it.
It's going to be real quick because I've still just been playing Ark. Actually, I haven't really played anything lately because I've been finishing my Baymax cosplay. And then last weekend was the Calgary Comic Expo.
Yeah.
We record on
So, yeah.
Sundays and then we release on Wednesdays. So that's why I wasn't on the previous episode.
Yep.
Yes.
But yeah, no, the expo is good. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yep.
So you guys have any tech news, or can I start off with the tech?
I got none.
Okay, I'll start then. 2 things I want to talk about. We have the whole thing that like Forbes and other sites are talking of, that finally Apple OS isn't immune to hacks anymore. I'm like, it never was.
Yes.
They used to advertise that. Their big advertisement for Macs and Apples was that they were hack proof or virus proof. It's not that they were virus proof. It's that nobody knew how to program a virus or hack into an iOS because they didn't know how to program.
Well,
That's
no,
not
actually
iOS.
true. That's not true.
They said it was virus free, which it wasn't. But for how big Apple is, they actually hold a very small percent of the market share. So
That
to
as
make
well.
a virus or any sort of phishing scheme or anything where you're trying to make money off people using Mac and Apple products would kind of be pointless when you can go for Microsoft and put a virus on there where they have like 80% of the market or whatever it is.
I know, and I'm not saying that the whole not knowing his thing is the complete thing, but I remember back in 2005 watching Daily Planet, and they had an expert on there talking about that advertisement, and the guy's like, it's not that its thing is that most people, if you were to go out and take a group of programmers and ask them, which do you know how to program an iOS or just it with DOS and all that and that programming language, which one do you know? And very few would be able to say I know both or just iOS.
Well,
Then
yeah,
you
but why
talking
would
about the
they
fact
even
that-
learn the Apple
Yeah,
OS if
and
it was pointless?
And exactly. And then that's what I was gonna get is that he said on top of that, like, and like you're saying, why would they even bother learning it for the sole purpose of causing shit? Because it's a small market. So what's the point? So I don't know why they keep on being surprised when they find out, oh my god, they're finally being susceptible to phishing schemes. They were always, that's the thing, they're talking about phishing schemes.
Hang on, because phishing schemes are neither a virus nor a hack.
Oh, I know. So they're talking about when through the phishing scheme, you're also they're also adding in a virus onto the email at the same time. And I'm like, I don't know if that's considered hacking the just the phishing scheme. Maybe with the virus and then getting their stuff, but like I don't know if that's like some big news that Apple is suddenly susceptible to hacks.
For anyone who doesn't know what a phishing
Hey,
scheme
hold on.
is-
Skufflewick's Tech Talk.
No.
Damn it. Hey,
Nice
this is
fucking
important.
try.
You should.
For anyone, no, this is just explaining as we go, same as I've done in the last two segments. For anyone who doesn't know what a phishing scheme is simply when you get an email from somebody who looks like an official source. Say it looks like Apple is sending you an email, but if you look at the email address, it's like at apple.wehackyu.com. So it looks like an official email. They're going to format everything and they're going to put certain images in to make it look real. And they're going to say, your account has been compromised. Click here to log in and update your security. So you click there and you log in and it doesn't actually do anything, but you've just punched in your username and password for a secure site. And good job. You just gave them all of your login information.
Yeah.
It's not a hack and it's not a virus. It's a user error.
Yeah.
So that is not so much a vulnerability to any specific platform as to specific users.
Stupidity.
Because any site or anything that has a login could be compromised this way, which is where two-factor authentication comes in, where if you log in on a new device, they will text you a 6-digit code and be like, hey, punch this in, and then you're good for the next 30 days on this device.
I'll point out though, I this isn't the only article. It's just the one I'm reading from. I have to kind of criticize them a little bit, and I like that you're explaining things here because
See?
I honestly think
Fuck you,
the
Jukebox.
Forbes, who's supposed Forbes, sorry,
Did you say fuck me?
Yeah.
Why?
Forbes,
Trying to skip tech talk.
yeah. So Forbes, that's supposed to be this big. There's supposed to be a smart article. Like everybody who runs there, they talk about all the big news topics, and they're supposed to be fairly accurate and informed. And every once in a while, I read one of their articles off their site, and I'm like, I don't know if they know what they're talking about. I don't know if this particular, because this guy doesn't seem to know the difference between malware, viruses, or hackers. He seems to like talk about them as if they're the same thing.
Which is quite often when you have a big site like that and their small editorial submissions by individuals. They often jump in and they don't care if it's the right news. They just want the most clicks because that's how much money they make. So they're going to use scary words, hacking, virus, scam.
Well,
as
hear this out. Here's not, this is in the article, and this is a quote. Gone are the days of PC-only virus attacks. Now malicious hackers, and then they go on to talk about malicious malware, and I'm like, in the same sentence as well, and I'm like, What is it? Are you talking about now virus attacks, malware, or hackers? Like,
Well, hang on, because viruses are malware.
oh, I know, but it's the way he's talking about it, and it's like he thinks that they're all the same thing, like, including hacking. Hacking and malware are not the.
He's
not the same
using
goddamn-
he's using what's called a buzzword, a big attention grabbing word, to try and scare people into reading the article and sharing the article so he gets more clicks.
And the
And then-
layman
then at the
doesn't
very
care or
end-
know the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the article, you might be right, because at the very end of the article, he talks about probably the actual reason that apples are finally being hit a lot by viruses and hackers is because they've had a big increase over the years to their in the market for computers.
So that may actually be true. Again, if you put
that's
out a
probably
virus,
is the actual
you want to
reason.
fuck out the most people possible.
And come on, who doesn't want to fuck with some of the
Hipsters.
pretentious people who buy
Hipsters.
apples? Yeah. Not that I have thing against most people, but there are people out there that like, I have an Apple and I'm better than everybody else, including PC.
Pretentious twats.
If you
And
really
usually
want
they
to
know
feel
nothing
secure,
about
go
actual
get
computers.
Linux.
And even that, I don't think Linux is entirely secure. If you really want to be secure, and as an IT guy, I can say I have clients that do this. I am not kidding. I have a client who has 4 computers in their office. 1 is connected to the internet. The other 3 are inventory, accounting, and I can't remember what the other one is, but that's all they do.
I
Now,
know
I'm
of
gonna
this
point out-
idea.
I'm going to leave you guys with this topic because the missus is here and she's now tapping me on the back like we have to go.
How long?
Like now.
No,
Have fun.
How long until you're back?
A long time.
Probably not until like 2 o'clock.
Oh, you're just gone then. Okay, fair enough. We'll edit this
Okay.
shit out.
But don't edit this out, but
Go-
just keep
go
on
jukebox.
talking and go do your
Okay, hang on.
next.
We're gonna cut in.
next thing.
Stop talking for a sec. All right, because I had to bail because the missus wanted him for some little tea party or something. I don't know, but lucky you, fucker, people. We're gonna go into the tech talk, which means you lucky people get to listen to me talk for the next 10 minutes. And
You're on the timer.
right? Oh, great. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about overclocking because in tech news recently, though Kusai left before I got to bring this up,
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Intel has recently responded to Core i7 7700K, their top chip, overheating. Intel has no idea what's happening. But basically, a lot of people will buy computers or build their own computers. And they will take specific parts and pieces to allow them to do something called overclocking. Basically, overclocking is when you have what's called an unlocked processor. For Intels, that's anything with a K or X at the back of the SKU. So in this case, 7700K is actually their top of the line mainstream processor. What you can do with these processors, because it's unlocked, is you can say, hey, I don't want you to run at 4.2 gigahertz. I want to push you faster than the manufacturer spec'd. I want to push you to, quite a few of these chips are getting to 5.0 or 5.1 gigahertz. So people say like, hey, I want to push this chip faster to get extra performance out of it. The problem with that is in order to push these chips faster, in order to make it think faster, you've also got to increase the voltage to ensure stability. Now, voltage with computer hardware is also equivalent to heat within CPUs. Now it's not a linear pattern, like you can put in X amount of volts and it'll be minimal heat increase, and as soon as you pass a certain threshold, your heat just skyrockets. And that's usually the point where people back it off a little bit and be like, okay, cool, we're good. What's been happening with some of these top of the line processors that Intel makes, and keep in mind, I am an Intel fan. I love that Ryzen's come out with the stuff that they have, or sorry, AMD has come out with the Ryzen stuff that they have, but I'm still not ready to jump ship just because I know Intel is good. But back to Intel. What's been happening with these chips is people who are overclocking will usually get a stable temperature at full load of about 60 to 75 degrees Celsius is usually where you want to be at maximum load after it's stabilized. Randomly, these chips are hitting 90, 95 degrees Celsius, which at 100 degrees Celsius, the computer just shuts off because that's the point where it damages it. Now it shuts off to prevent damage, but you still could have some silicone degradation at that point. Somebody within the Intel community has actually said we don't recommend running outside of the processor specifications, which means they don't recommend overclocking, such as exceeding frequency or voltage, again, overclocking, or removing the integrated heat spreader, which is sometimes called delidding. These actions will void the processor warranty. So what's pissed a lot of people off with this is Intel has come out and been like, yeah, these are unlocked chips. You can make them go faster. They're not doing what they're supposed to. And now Intel's going, hey, don't overclock or you'll void your warranty, when people specifically buy these chips to overclock. So Intel's pissing a lot of people off right now. This is also going to be a mix of news and tech talk. So Intel's pissed a lot of people off right now. Basically because they've come out and said, like, hey, you can overclock this shit, but don't, because we don't know why it's going wrong. So that is some of the hazards of overclocking. Some other ones is, again, you can have damage to your hardware because of heat degrading the silicon within the device. You can also get blue screens or BSODs, which basically is your computer going, oh shit, something just happened, I don't know how to handle it. Go away, go away, go away, turn off. Now, overclocking isn't specifically limited to processors either. Jukebox, it's super weird when you guys aren't talking.
Well, I have a few questions if you want me to interject.
If you want to jump in as we go, because other people will have the same questions.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to jump in, but it's mostly in regards to what's happening with Intel there. I kind of want to know what maybe the volume or population of people who are having these overheating problems are.
It's become a serious enough issue that Linus Tech Tips
covered it on the WAN show.
Well, it's become a serious enough issue that Intel has put out an official statement.
Yeah. That's kind of why I wanted to know.
Yeah, after 37 pages of complaints on the Intel community forums.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
They finally came out and addressed it.
Okay. And at any point when the i7-7700 came out, did they advertise that you can overclock it, or did they just say it's unlocked? Do you know?
Intel 7700K advertising. So it's always been that the K SKU series, 7600K, 7700K, 7800K, are unlocked to allow overclocking.
I know they're allowed, but I want to know if Intel at any point said overclock these, or if they just said you can.
I know they have said you can. I don't know if they have said these chips are for overclocking. They say these chips have better overclocking.
Proved yourselves wrong.
Yeah. But I don't know specifically if they market these for overclockers.
Yeah.
They do say enhanced thermal interface material for better overclocking, or enhanced or more restrictive quality thresholds for better overclocking stability. Yeah. They do definitely mention overclocking, but I don't know if they specifically say to overclock.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'd be butthurt if my shit failed anyways, but like, I'd be more butthurt if I bought this chip where they said overclock this and I overclocked it and it failed. Whereas if they just said you can, and then it failed, I wouldn't feel as bad because I know the dangers of overclocking.
Yeah. I think, and like reading through some of the comments just on the page that I'm on specifically, why Intel Force 4790K, which is a couple generations old, but the equivalent chip, why force users with high-end components that are proven working to upgrade to 7700K for things like Netflix 4K or other specific little things that are supported on the newer chips.
Yeah.
Like people are pissed so much right now. And it's like it's justified. This, I think, is going to be a point because of this issue. This issue is going to be the tipping point where I think a lot of people are going to go from the blue team Intel over to red team AMD with the new Ryzen stuff. This is the best thing Ryzen could have asked for.
I don't feel as many people will be jumping ship unless their processor's actually fucked up, because I know it's unlocked and all, but a lot of people are still scared of overclocking. So if they don't overclock and their chip runs fine, they probably don't have a reason to go buy a new one like half a year after this thing came out.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about I mean, there will be some people who have a 7700K and an expansive budget where they're like, fuck this computer, and they go get one. I'm talking about the people coming into either upgrading or like upgrading an old machine, replacing it, or building new machines, new builders who are going to come in and they're going to see this and they're going to be like, well, seriously, Intel? Like, the fuck? All right, well, Ryzen's looking better. Like, people who don't previously have a bias one way or another.
Yeah.
This is going to make Ryzen look like that big shiny thing because all of Ryzen's chips are unlocked. Whereas
Give
with
them a
Intel,
small boost.
All of Ryzen's chips are unlocked. Whereas with Intel, only these specific K series, and they're top of the line chips.
Hold on,
so they're not cheap.
With Ryzen, I thought it was all the R7s and R5s were unlocked, but not whenever R3 comes out. I thought it was like specifically one SKU.
Every AMD Ryzen CPU will have an unlocked multiplier, is what I'm seeing.
Oh, dandy.
So that would include the Ryzen 3, which is simply quad cores, to my understanding.
Yep.
Quad core, and I'm gonna say hyper-threaded. I know it's not hyper-threaded.
Amazed if they had 2 cores.
I doubt they'd make that. AMD has always made more cores with almost equivalent value to the fewer cores of Intel, or almost equivalent performance to the fewer cores of Intel.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say hyper-threading, but I'm not going to.
I'm not sure on the R3 because specs and stuff haven't been released and stuff, but R5 and R7, they don't necessarily have their trademarked hyper-threading type name. They just say simultaneous multi-threading.
I thought Ryzen 3s were spec'd.
Were they? If they did, I totally missed it.
I may have missed it because everything kind of washed out after the R5 series.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, anyways, this has been a mix of tech and news, so we're going to go back to your questions because you had more.
Not necessarily.
Okay. Okay.
Actually,
so we'll go back
for people for the tech talk part, when you overclock, do you do it in BIOS or do you have an application? Tell these people how you overclock.
So that's what actually I was about to jump back into here. So overclocking or pushing your hardware faster than it's supposed to go, while thereby taking the risk that it may not function as it's intended, can be done on multiple parts of your computer. We'll talk about the parts of your computer probably in the next tech talk. I was going to do it this time, but overclocking was more important with the Intel shit going on. But in your computer, there are a bunch of parts. You have memory, processors, motherboards, storage. You have graphics cards, etc., 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 processors. So if I didn't say that, The parts that people will generally overclock are going to be your processor, which is the thinking of the computer, your memory, which is not the same as storage. Your memory simply holds a cache of open applications. It is fucking fast, and it's just meant to provide the processor with the information as fast as it needs, as opposed to waiting for your storage, like your hard drive or solid state drive. You also have your graphics card, or your graphics processing unit, GPU, which does exactly what I just said. It processes your graphics, or can be used for CUDA processing or rendering on other stuff, but we'll talk about that later. Not today. So these three devices or parts of the computer are the biggest influencers on your performance. Some games will have a CPU bottleneck where the processor is the point where it's taking so much information it just can't take anymore, which means your graphics card would then have extra headroom, could potentially go faster or get you more frames. Some games are graphics card bottlenecked, which again, graphics card is going as fast as it can, CPU is waiting and could go faster. The idea of overclocking is simply to push any singular component faster so that it will be less of a bottleneck. You will always have a bottleneck at somewhere. In games like Dishonored, the game engine limits you to, I think, 120 frames per second. In games like call it Ghost Recon Woodlands, it is a super intensive game to run. So either your processor or your graphics card, the hardware itself, is going to be your limiting device. The idea of overclocking is, and I actually have my graphics card overclocked, but I haven't overclocked my processor, is simply to say, okay, instead of thinking 14,000 times a second, I want you to think 17,000 times a second. And generally, the 20% boost in speed would result in a 5 to 10% boost in frames per second. Now, when you're gaming at 144 frames, that's not a huge deal. But when you're pushing 4K resolutions, you're doing high textures and intensive games, and you're going from 25, 26 frames to 35, 40 frames, which I've actually done in Arc by overclocking my graphics card. Though Arc is not well optimized, so take that with a grain of salt for other games. That's a big deal when you're going from 25 to 40 frames. It really makes a difference on the fluidity of the game, because if you get hitches or stutters or any sort of lag, it really brings you back out of the game, so you lose your immersion. Basically overclocking is to make something go faster to create less of a bottleneck on that component. When you overclock your processor, that's generally done on the motherboard itself, so within the BIOS when you first start your computer. Look up your processor overclocking guide on YouTube. Jay's 2 Cents, Linus Tech Tips, Bitwit, previously Awesome Sauce Network, does awesome videos. I think Paul's Hardware does some as well. And I may be missing some of the other tech tubers, but I think I've seen a couple from Paul. Oh, Joker does some too. Although Joker's videos can be hit and miss. A lot of his videos are just angry rants, and a lot of his videos are really informative. So take his stuff with a grain of salt. But yeah, if you're going to overclock your processor, it's usually done within the BIOS. It can create a bunch of instability. Be extremely careful, and even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, make sure you have a guide. It's generally safe to overclock within certain specifications. Like for Intel chips, you can usually go 1.35 volts or 1.3 volts depending on the generations. Again, watch those guides. Know exactly what numbers you're punching in when you punch them in. Have somebody help you through this who's done it before, even if just a YouTube video.
Just accidentally miss a decimal place. The whole thing starts on fire.
Well, most of the time it's it's not good. And actually, Intels have safeties built in. AMDs do not. You will cook your AMD chips, and they'll just be gone. Or there is graphics card overclocking, which is generally done within a software in Windows. Softwares that I use personally, I have used EVGA Precision X, or you can use MSI Afterburner is what I'm using now, just because its monitoring system is better. Yeah, I use it because its monitoring system is better. I can watch all the specs on my computer while I'm gaming and know where my bottlenecks are. As an IT guy, that's what I want to know for when I'm doing future builds, to be able to work around stuff like that. But that's simply done. And it's the same concept. It's simply voltage and frequency adjustments. You want to raise them as high as you can without spiking your thermals and without causing instability. Now you'll put in your numbers, and then you'll open a program for CPUs. I use IDA64. For graphics cards, I will use usually Heaven Benchmark, because it'll just cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle. But usually when I do a 12 to 24 hour, just let it run one of these super intensive programs, because they'll hit every part of the processing unit, whether it's CPU or GPU. They'll usually hit every part. They'll create the most heat. They'll have the highest load. If it's going to fuck up, it should fuck up there. Once you've done a 12 or 24 hour stability test, keep in mind I have seen 48 hour stability test pass. Gaming crashed the system. So it's not guaranteed, but I mean, anything can crash anything. Once you've done what you feel is safe or overclocked, your thermals are good, you're happy, you'll generally lock those in, and that'll just be your new standard running specifications on that piece of hardware. The other thing to keep in note is with overclocking, there's something called the silicone lottery. Some parts, like individual pieces, are just better than others. You can have 3 identical CPUs. 2 of them will overclock. 1 of them just won't.
Silicon lottery blows.
What's funny is I don't generally overclock a whole lot, but when I do, I drink Das Equis. No, I've actually had decent luck with the lottery. Like my graphics card, I couldn't get it up to, I'm running a GTX 970. I couldn't get it super stable at 1450 megahertz. Like it would crash fairly frequently. I dropped it down to 1400 megahertz, which is where most people say should be okay, and I haven't had any issues with it. I don't need to push my hardware as hard as possible. This is honestly for Arc, where I needed the extra frames to make the game fluid. Because like it would just straight up lock. So yeah, overclocking. Go team.
That was Skufflewick's Tech Talk.
Yeah, we need a better name for that.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll come up with something.
You know, when you were going to explain the difference between malware and viruses and hacking and stuff, the reason I said Tech Talk there is because I didn't know if you were doing one. And I was trying to integrate it because I thought we were only going to go for this 1 hour and then just done.
Fuck you, man. I got lots of shit to say.
Yeah, I'm sure
No,
you
that's
do.
pretty much all I got. Did we have anything else we wanted to talk about?
Well, we have a couple conventions, and if we're sticking to the format, I do have a movie to talk about. Did I just lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm just looking at the clock. Yay, Tech Talk. All right, well, go ahead with YEG Pin.
Yeah, so YEG Pinball is a convention where they gather as many pinball machines as they can into one space, and you pay $20 flat at the door, or you could get a weekend pass for like $40, and you have access to all these pinballs on free play. They also had a few vendors, people who sell pinball and pinball accessories. They had door prizes and silent auctions, and they also had 2 different tournaments going on at the same time. One of them was like the Canadian Western Pinball Championship, and the other was I can't remember the acronym, but they're the big pinball league that's kind of international.
Cool.
Yeah. Any questions?
How intensive are these tournaments, and how reliable can the machines really be over that many uses?
So, the tournament was a little bit quiet. I think it's not like the finals or anything. I think these are like qualifiers for regions or something. But the people who are in the tournaments are usually pretty hardcore. Like, you know, they'll play a single game for like an hour straight. They'll jump up and down. They'll swing around. They'll swear. They'll kick the machine. Shit like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Small audience, mostly other pinball players, of course. The reliability of the machines, pinball machines and arcade machines in general, were made to be on for very long periods of time and to be played several times with the hopes that they don't break. But pinball machines are just an ass ton of small electrical components and moving parts, and it's almost inevitable that something will go wrong eventually, whether it happens that weekend or the next week or, you know, after a single player, after 300 is completely undeterminable.
Mm-hmm.
But I was there for 4 hours. I saw about 5 machines out of 80 that went out of order. And then they had, because most of the machines are kind of like donated, they're people will take from their personal collections or from on location and put them here for the weekend. They would go around and they'd fix their machines or reset them or whatever they needed to have done. So I only saw one machine that was actually out for the entire night.
So they actually have on-site technicians with spare parts and blah, 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 blah.
Yep. And since a lot of these
good.
machines came from collectors and whatnot, what a lot of them will do is once you open the coin door, kind of in the sides, they'll have a bunch of parts or rubbers or
Just
lights
waiting.
that are needed specifically for that machine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Decent. So did you get the chance to play any? And if so, which were some of your favorites?
I played 55 pinball machines and 2 arcade machines.
Name 5 that were your favorite.
Oh, God.
Come on, 12%. You got this, buddy. No, that's not 12%. That's way off. Hang on. 5 of 60.
Do the math.
I don't know. Math is hard.
It's 1 out of 12.
8.5%. No, 8.75.
I'm just going to continue on. So Terminator 2.
8.3. So close.
Terminator 2 is amongst my favorite machines, and they had one there. It was almost constantly in use because it's one of the better machines, but I was a little sad because I have a lot of nostalgia for that game because I used to play it all the time at the bowling alley as a kid, but I cannot for the life of me make any of the shots on that machine. Like, I just suck at it. Still a favorite, but yeah, I will. I only got to play like 2 games on it, though. General courtesy, if someone's waiting behind you, to only play 1 game. If you're with someone, try and play 2-player games. So Terminator, that's one. Pink Panther, which generally older games. Yep, that Pink Panther.
Yeah.
Generally older games seem less fun. Mostly because they have less stuff to them. They don't have like a animated display and whatnot. But I found at this convention that I had a lot more fun with the older machines, partially because they were taken better care of. So I was actually kind of finding that a lot of the newer ones, they had like loose flippers, or the coils were burning out, or like lights were burnt out, stuff like that. So they didn't play nearly as nice as these older ones. And I feel like part of that's because the older ones are cheaper. So whatever collector didn't blow their load buying the machine and actually had some money to fix it up afterwards.
Yeah.
But with the Pink Panther, they actually did quite a few extra things to it. So they painted a lot of the rails pink. They put pink rubbers around all of like the bumpers and the flippers and stuff. And they painted the outside of the cabinet all the metal pink.
So just
And
little
they
personal touches.
Yeah, and they completely resurfaced it, so it played very smoothly, and they had a few wide bodies, so there's like a standard pinball machine, and then there's one that's like half a foot wider. I've only played about 4 of them, but that was probably my favorite of the wide bodies. Fuck, that's 2. Centaur, also highly, how would I put this? Restored, I guess. Everything looked almost completely new on it. But what they actually did is they took the rubbers and they put glow in the dark rubber in there. So this machine was like glowing. And the thing with Centaur is it's all black, white, and red, so it looks super evil. And then when you have the playfield glowing, it looks even better. So that was a favorite. They had a couple of the Jersey Jack pinballs, so Wizard of Oz Emerald City is ridiculously complicated for a pinball machine, but it's so beautiful that like it deserves to be in like the top 5.
It kind of fits right within the Wizard of Oz theme of like, or Emerald City specifically, of like over the top but gorgeous.
Yeah. So with Jersey Jack, they're actually a relatively new company, and the Wizard of Oz pinball came out in like 2014 or something. So they tried to like reinvent the pinball a little bit. So instead of having a little digital display, they actually have like a full TV screen in the top head where it keeps your score and plays little animations and stuff. Jersey Jack's kind of known for using more quality parts than the other pinball manufacturers right now.
Oh, okay.
And they did some stuff. So like they have a crystal ball that actually has like holograms or whatever inside of it. They'll play little videos, and it's got a lot more moving like characters on the field and whatnot. Like the flippers are even ruby slippers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's just a really good game.
Nice.
Fuck, I need one more. God damn. Seriously, I played so many.
I mean, we can do top 4.
Yeah, we'll just stick to top 4 because there's too many.
Yeah.
And you need to tell me about the convention you went to.
Okay, well, the pinball sounds fun.
It is fucking fun.
I went to the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo. Yes, I'm a nerd. That's fine. It was actually a lot of fun. They had some of the normal guests. Stan Lee, who actually wasn't supposed to be there because last year was supposed to be his last year in Canada. Mark Meir with BioShock. I shouldn't have to explain who Stan Lee is, but Mark Meir with BioShock. He is the voice of Commander Shepard.
Isn't he there every year?
Yeah, he does a whole bunch of other stuff too, but that's what he's best known for. He's one of the regulars there. Garrett Wang is actually usually one of the hosts from Star Trek.
Cool.
James Marsters has come a few times. So there's been a few of the names that have been there fairly often. Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, Jay and Silent Bob were there. John Cusack was there. I didn't go see him. He was from the movie High Fidelity, which I actually just watched last night.
I love that movie.
Because I'm going to skip that segment. Long story short, kind of slow. I could see why you would enjoy it as a collector. I found it a little bit slow, but it was a decent movie, and I'm actually going to be in the musical of it here probably later this year, hopefully, if I get in. Jeremy Renner was there. Nathan Fillion, who I actually... in front of a crowd of about 15,000 people, I went up and sang to him. That was fun.
Nice.
Peter Capaldi, like there's a whole bunch of people there. Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead. When I go to the conventions, I go mostly for me so that I can like dress up and have fun with the other cosplayers and like da-da-da-da-da. And like I'll go see 1 or 2 of the panels, but I'm mostly there for me.
Tell the viewers what you cosplayed as.
Oh, okay. So generally, I go every year for the last 6 years as a ghillie suit. This year was the first year that I've cosplayed anything else. And actually, the first year that I've made anything. Schultze, who I think was a guest or will be at some point. We might have lost his audio. Schultze actually helped make about 90% of the costume, though. We made a Baymax costume. And it by no means was the best Baymax costume. But when people walked by, they went, "Oh my God, Baymax!" and ran up and were like, "Can I get a photo? Can I get, oh my God." And so that was actually really cool. It went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I figured like just the little kids would like it, but there was little kids that ran up and like, mommy, Baymax, like little kids do, which I expected, and a bunch of big hugs and all of that. There's actually a bunch of like older kids, teenagers, young adults that came up and they're like, oh my God, we love you. And like big hugs, lots of photos. There were adults, grandparents even, that had come up and been like, oh my God, we love you. Let's get a photo. And like, da, 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 da. So it was actually
Did you
really
ever
cool.
deflate when people hugged you?
No, because I had a very, very high pressure and high volume pump. I had in total I had 7 pumps. 6 of them were battery powered. First I had 3. They all burnt out, so I swapped them out for another 3. So when I actually went, that was all in testing. So when I actually went, I had 4 pumps, 3 battery powered, which all burnt out, and then I had a plug-in pump. And I'm glad I had that because it was fucking loud. But it was high static pressure, high flow. So it did actually keep the suit inflated to the point where like it would pop a small hole. I used Force Flex bags because I liked the way the texture looked. And I thought if I'm going to have a pop, it's going to be concealed to one of the little Force Flex diamonds. Right. And that actually worked perfect. So we had a few small pops. We would seal those up. 10 minutes later, I get another couple of them, seal those up. 20 minutes later, another couple of them. So that worked perfect because Baymax actually does get taped throughout the movie. But yeah, it worked really, really decently. I was actually really surprised, and a ton of people seemed to love the suit. We actually did have a full Big Hero 6 group, but because a couple of the members were only there for the one day, they actually took the rest of the group and spent most of the day just wandering around looking through the halls, which admittedly was a little disappointed because I was expecting that we were going to spend the whole day taking photos because I am locked up. Like I was on an extension cord out of a window from one of the restaurants in the building. So I mean, I was a little disappointed that we didn't all hang out the whole time, but honestly, when I was taking photos just me, I had lineups, I had people waiting, I was popular. They showed up. I went from like a photo every 20-30 seconds to a photo every 3 minutes. So that was oddly satisfying because they left again after to go look more and I stayed. And it went back to like boom, 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 boom photos. So it was oddly satisfying.
I saw a few of them on the Canada Camo Instagram.
Oh yeah, I go on Instagram as Canada Camo, Facebook, Twitter as well, and I think Snapchat is Canada Camo. Anyways, that's if you're looking for me, you want to get a hold of me as far as cosplay, that's the way to do it. Otherwise, Skufflewick is usually what I'm known as on Steam and stuff. I think I'm gonna change over though. I don't know. I might just put everything Canada Camo. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Tell me about singing to Nathan Fillion.
Oh, so Nathan Fillion
I don't have full context.
Okay, so Nathan Fillion had a panel. Basically, the celebrities, the corral, I think it is just a giant like hockey rink where they have like rodeos or whatever. I don't know how many people it seats, but like it was packed for Nathan Fillion. And like you basically watch him talk with the moderator for a little bit. They'll have a little conversation, and then they'll get to attendee questions, and you just line up and you ask questions, do whatever. And so that was cool. I kind of had a question prepared because I just recently seen Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. I've never seen it before. So I saw it, and I was like, man, this would be a lot of fun to do the musical. So I went and looked, and apparently they don't give out rights for the musical anymore. So I'm like, you know what? Nathan's coming to town. Let's just ask him because he's a drama geek. Like, he's actually from Edmonton. He spent a lot of time in the local improv clubs and drama societies and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what? He's a cool guy. Let's ask him. So I went up, and when it was my turn to ask, I'm like, hey, Nathan. Sup, buddy? You were recently in a thing. Wow, words are hard now. You were recently in little short film called Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog with Neil Patrick Harris. He's like, who's that guy? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. He's a weird guy. I'm like, anyways, what I was wondering is, what's a man gotta do to get to do this play? And like I just sang a little bit of one of the songs from Dr. Horrible. And when I finished singing, like it was only a few lines. But when I actually finished singing, first thing he does is he says, first of all, puts the mic down, just starts, and like the entire fucking stadium thing starts cheering. And I'm like, wow.
Oh, Jesus.
Awesome. Thanks.
I feel like a rock star.
Well, I mean, I sang to Neil Patrick Harris a couple years ago too. Same thing. So I'm kind of awesome. But he picks the mic back up and he's like, second, let me look into that. I'm gonna
So
find
did you
out.
actually get like a contact?
I left a note with like Canada Camo, and I said if you would prefer, you can also get a hold of me through your previous classmate, because I'm actually the IT guy of a previous classmate of his. So I'm like,
nifty.
if it's easier for you to do it that way, go ahead and just have her let me know, or here's my direct contact, like whichever works. Obviously no rush, like you got other stuff going on, but if you get the chance, it would be sweet. So yeah, that was singing to Nathan Fillion.
Fucking tight. I'm pretty sure you told the story about Neil Patrick on episode 5.
Yeah, I think I did.
Cosplay convention, crazy characters.
I might have. Basically, I sang to Neil Patrick Harris.
You're gonna have to tell us if you get contacted,
Oh yeah.
like on the podcast.
No, don't worry. It
Have
will
like
be
a little
posted everywhere.
squealing moment.
Oh, for sure. But hashtag shameless plug. Again, Canada Camo. If you guys want to look that stuff up, go team.
Anything else about the convention? Did you go
Like I
see
said-
any panels other than Nathan Fillion?
Not really. Like I said, I go for me, as in Canada Camo. I go to see all the other cosplayers and for people to see me and like just to have fun with a bunch of nerds. I don't really see a lot of panels. The food was good as always. Yeah.
You know, I collect Sonic the Hedgehog comics, and I'm a little scared to see what's going to happen to the price of them at these conventions now. Because Sonic the Hedgehog is unofficially canceled, which makes me ridiculously sad.
Nice.
Not nice. No, because come December, Archie received a cease and desist from Sega of Japan because they forgot to fucking renew their licensing agreement.
Oh no.
And then the only statement they made is that they're in talks and that the April issue should be coming out. April is past, so everyone's just assuming it's canceled at this point. Which, oh god, it just makes me sad. I like went into the comic shop after not being there for 2 months, expecting like a bunch of comics in my file, and they're like, nothing. But Sonic is almost kind of like Star Trek, where you have two different factions of fans fighting over the same shit, so the price gets jacked up a lot just because of that. So now that it's canceled, everyone's going to be trying to get their backlogs and get everything down. The price is inevitably going to go up, and it was already high enough at those conventions.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much all I had for my expos.
Yeah. Does that mean the podcast is over?
I mean, I don't really have anything else. That's pretty much my week.
Yeah, I think I'm good to go too.
Cool.
Go sleep because I was out super late playing pinball.
Nice. Yeah, well, Kusai's not here, but he says he loves you all, I'm sure. Probably not. He's kind of a douche. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Remember, if you liked what you heard today, please remember to subscribe and like the video. And if you would like to hear anything particular, don't forget to comment down below. Thank you and have a nice day.